April 27th. This is our transportation workshop meeting. Commissioner Pickens will do our invocation. Commissioner Rawls will do our pledge. All stand if you're able to do that.
Let us pray. Our Heavenly Father, we just thank you for this glorious day and all the blessings in it, Father God. We thank you for the opportunity to gather here as a commission, staff, and concerned citizens, Father God. Just let us use these presentations and information to deliberate and discuss and make the best decisions for the citizens of Putnam County. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner Pickens. Commissioner Rawls. Next item on our agenda will be public comment on agenda items. Is there any public comment on agenda items? Seeing no public comment, Mr. Adamczyk, you had an announcement you'd like to make?
Yeah, I just want to acknowledge that Josh Perry's here representing Cat Kamek and probably listen to our meeting and hang out. So thank you, Josh.
Good. Would you like to say a few words, Josh? Come to the podium and introduce yourself. You're good? That was a demand, not a request. No, I'm teasing. Just teasing. Okay, BOC workshop. Then we'll go straight into item 3A. Mr. Drexel, you have the floor, sir. Parks and Recreation, Pico. No, that's not you. That's not you. That's Kevin Stevens. I'm sorry. Hey, you got to be ready around here.
Yes, sir. At the April 14th Fishing Fund Advisory Committee meeting that we had, the board voted to bring it to the Board of County Commissioners to purchase the property at LC Road and Pico Drive, if at all possible.
And the reason was they wanted to start a park area, right?
Yes, sir. They wanted to look at something along that area for some type of a pavilion, some sort of a park or playground area, something for the community at that little intersection up at the top.
I think they also had looked at maybe thinking about sewer and water there because we already have it there. So, and maybe in the future, if they could gather more properties along that side down to the river, they could actually have something to be very proud of going forward.
Yes, sir. I believe that was
That was, I think, the conversation. Mr. Rawls, you have a question?
I went by and looked at the property. It's a long hike from there to the boat ramp if we're trying to tie it to the boat ramp. As far as for parking or playground or whatever, I don't know that would be any advantage to the boat ramp itself. Both parcels on either side of the boat ramp belong to us, and I don't know either. I didn't turn on the wetlands to see what part of it was, but it may be better for us to take a look at utilizing that land, mitigating part of it if we have to, and doing it right there adjacent to the boat ramp.
I think Mr. Browning talked about that, didn't he, at that meeting?
Yes, sir. He had mentioned that as well.
Yeah, and he has some property down there that I think he wants to, I don't want to put words in someone's mouth.
There was discussion.
We own both sides of it. According to the property appraiser, we have both sides,
I'm
property
talking
on both
about
sides of the boat ramp.
behind this property right here. He owns some lots there too that I think he wanted to do something with in conjunction with the county, but I'll let him explain that one.
Oh, no, I'm only talking about, I've only heard about this one, but I don't know that I'm in favor of spending that kind of money right now. We got other issues we need to deal with. And we got my airfield the other day with bathrooms being shut down and ball fields and public not having access to them and all that fun stuff. And I just wonder if we need to be taking on more burden, let alone taking something off the tax rolls.
This would be Alpha, the fishing fund. Is that from what I understand?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Mr. Turner, you had your hand up?
Okay, I saw the Zillow report on here where it's assessed at 18.5 or whatever. Is that what? Other than that, I haven't seen anything about what amount of money it's even listed for, if it's even listed, or is there an actual price on it somewhere?
My understanding it was offered to us, Kevin, you can correct me if I'm wrong, for $25,000 from Mr. Ken Schwing.
Yes, sir. I believe that was the amount.
Okay.
Okay. I don't really care one way or the other, to be honest with you. I'm with Commissioner Rawls. I don't believe it's close enough for the boat ramp where it's ever going to do us any good for that. even if you put a bathroom on it at some point, it'd be way up the hill from where it is right now, and it's such a small piece of property that I don't know where it's gonna do any good as far as, what was it, 1/10 of an acre or something?
7,000 some square feet, I think.
Very small.
Yeah, very small piece of property up on a corner lot, so with the setbacks, I don't even know if it's a buildable piece of property. I don't know. But my problem here is that if we do buy it, I'm absolutely not for buying it out of the fishing fund. We have multiple times said that we're gonna set that money aside for a capital improvement that actually means something, which means build a boat ramp, build a parking area for a boat ramp, something way different than spending this money out of the fishing fund for a lot that we may or may not use in the future. If y'all wanna buy it, I'll go along with you. I don't really care one way or the other, but I do care that we don't spend our boat ramp money out of that fishing fund. We even went to the point to start paying the maintenance on the existing boat ramps out of general reserves to keep, or out of the Parks and Rec, but we gave him extra money to do it, to keep from spending the fishing fund money on just activities instead of doing something with it that's meaningful. And that meaningful thing, I believe, is gonna be at some point a boat ramp. If the one in Georgetown doesn't work out at some point in the future, which is the one we were looking at, because there's no public boat ramp access in that area. So if that one doesn't work out, then I would rather buy a piece of property with river access and put another boat ramp on it and do something that's very meaningful instead of a piece of property up the hill. But like I said, I'm not against buying this property. I'm just against spending fishing fund money to do it with. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Chairman.
Mr. Pickens?
Yeah, and I went by there this morning, and if it's a piece of property that's up at the top of the hill, that was my question of, even if we did put bathrooms there, it's a long walk from that boat ramp up there, so I question the use, what use we would get out of it, even if we put something on there, so, and, Commissioner Turner brings up a good point, is it a buildable lot? It's not, so we'd have to acquire other lots.
I believe so, yes, sir. It's pretty small.
Well, there's a corner, if I may, Mr. Chairman.
You may.
There's a corner lot too, which means it's double setbacks on the front and on, or excuse me, on the side is double setbacks.
Yes, sir.
So with the double setbacks on the corner lot, I don't know that it's a buildable lot even for a bathroom or something small, much less if there's room to park while you use the restroom and, or put a picnic table there and use it, or I guess long-term, if we could buy multiple lots along there, it would be different, and I wouldn't be against that, because that's one thing that boat ramp needs is additional parking area, but I think Commissioner Rawls hit the nail on the head. I don't know that we shouldn't spend the money towards mitigating some of that wetland next door, filling it in and using that right next door to the boat ramp for additional parking and expansion and what have you. Most especially if it turns out that we can't spend that fishing fund money on the Georgetown property. That may be where we do it, because that would be a substantial improvement. There's no doubt about it. I just fail to see the use of the property up the hill. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Adams, that?
For the most part, I share the other commissioners' concerns, and there's a mobile home on the property now too, so we'd have to abate that if we wanted to build something else as well, so there's added costs to that. My only thing is if we did go forward with it, I'd like the idea of JR possibly using, if we're gonna abate the building that's there, to use it for training, but that's not a motivator to decide to buy this or not for me. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, commissioners, where you want to go from here? I think from what I understood, it was going to be a long-term vision of a benefactor, and maybe some other properties would be donated along that section down there to create a better park area. So it's up to y'all.
Well, if that's the case, then why don't we ask staff to go back, put the deal together? If somebody's gonna donate properties, then
Right.
is this being donated to us?
Do what?
Are we talking about this being donated?
This wouldn't be donated.
Okay, I'd like to hear the whole thing, and, because I'm not familiar with, you said John Browning, is he wanting to donate?
Possible, he possibly mentioned something. He'd like to talk about something.
Offer to allow us to buy it for what he's got into it.
I don't have enough information to make a decision.
Right. I'm with you there.
I missed what you said.
I don't have enough information to make a decision. If this is part of a larger deal, I'm not aware of it, so,
Yeah, if there's availability of maybe purchasing other lots to go with that, like you say, makes sense going back down towards that boat ramp. But if you're just gonna get one and hope for the rest, I don't know. I don't wanna do
I was
that
just
right now.
asking Mr. Commando, we've got that property that we got from, Breck Sloan. That was used for mitigation bank, but there's still some of it that's not been. You know, maybe we can do some horse trading and end up, like Mr. Turner said, and have a parking space down there and have a bathhouse and, or not a bathhouse, a bathroom. And that would definitely cure a lot of ails.
Well, maybe Mr. Stevens can go back and bring back all the information at that point and see what we're really talking about doing at that point.
Yes, sir. I can take this information back to the Fishing Fund Advisory Committee at our next meeting and see if they can get a clearer picture of what their goals are, what their desires are.
Also, though, pitch the idea, if they don't know that we got the property on both sides, maybe they should start with that, because we already own that property.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think you need to go back and get that cleared up and then come back to us with some recommendation at that point.
Yeah, I would
Yes, sir.
And also, I think, excuse me,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I think you need to look at what the concerns of the commissions are at that point. There is a place on there that would have to be abated. There is setbacks that need to be met. And what could we possibly put on there? So let's look at all that before we discard it, okay?
Yes, sir.
And I think if you'd convey to them, and I don't mind if they want to reach out to me, I don't really care, if they want to, but I believe that it would be a lot more forward thinking on the county's part to try to get parking there and what have you that isn't all the way halfway back up the hill. So,
Yes, sir.
I understand if they're trying to say, well, if we buy that one, we might at some point in the future be able to buy those lots in between the boat ramp and there. But I don't know, by the time we spent the possibly $100,000+ on buying those lots in between, that it wouldn't be cheaper to take that money and try to mitigate some of that wetland right beside there, fill it in and go on and have a boat ramp right beside the boat, have a parking right beside the boat ramp. That would fix most of the ills of that area.
Yes, sir.
So I think you got a two-prong approach. I think you got many prongs. But I think maybe it's time to involve water management in the conversation too about what could we possibly do if we were try to mitigate that down there.
There's a member of the fishing committee that knows more about mitigation than probably anybody that we know.
That's what I was gonna,
It may be the thing that he could give us a price on what it would cost to mitigate, and that's what his boss does or whatever. So might be that he could really help you out on that too, what it would cost to mitigate that area.
Sure.
Sweet,
Yes,
like
sir.
Galen called the John Browning Memorial Boat Ramp or something.
You could do that with that time coming. Thank you, Mr. Stevens,
Yes, sir.
appreciate it. All right, item B, sanitation, Mr. Tilton.
Yes, sir. I'd like to thank the board for this opportunity to come before you today. What I'm trying to do here is recently have parted ways with my landfill supervisor, and so in an effort to kind of relook at my organization with the things that we've done out there and the more responsibilities that we're trying to take on and better services we're trying to give to the citizens to be able to address their needs better, I'm wanting to upgrade that position of landfill supervisor to senior division manager. And with that comes an added salary to attract that talent that we want to get here in Putnam County to help us go forward and meet these goals. So I'm coming here before you today after going through HR and finding out the process to ask y'all's approval to move forward with this position and this upgrade.
Thank you, Mr. Tilton. Three commissioners already chimed in, so Mr. Turner?
Okay, so basically, we had talked a while back about possibly in next year, getting some employees to run the additional equipment that we've been purchasing over the years, but we never expanded the employee base at the landfill. And because we're gonna start doing our own mining in 4B and possibly in the 5s and 6s, you know, as time goes on and you update the long-term master plan. So is this position that you're asking to upgrade today, that's considering that you're gonna have more help next year because of the additional mining and the other things that we're planning on taking on next year? Is that it, or?
No, this is mostly just because right now, as we're getting a lot more complaints and everything about illegal dumping and other aspects, and as we get ready to try to improve our outlying areas and things like that, in order to keep up with all that, this is trying to add responsibility and bringing a talent that can do this, as well as next year when we do take on the mining projects and things like that, we're going to have, I'm going to need somebody there who I have oversight and has the experience to make these things happen to get the best value for the county as we do try to expand to do these things, whether it be, you know, we've talked about everything from, you know, hiring OPS positions just to get us through. You know, if we're going to set that out in phases, you know, it's 10 acres we're going to have to mine up and everything like that. We're going to have to get a screen and those type things or whatever, but we're going to have to be able to, we have oversight over all that with our department.
Okay, I'd like to make one more comment, if I may, Mr.
You may, you
Chairman,
have the
and I'll
floor, sir.
present the floor. The landfill, while it belongs to the government, still has to run like a business.
Yeah.
It just got to. And if our director of sanitation is saying that he needs help at a higher level than what he has now, then I've got to support that request. And the reason being is that his tasks, since he's been here and he's done a fine job to date, his task has been that he works on funding partners to a certain extent without even thinking about becoming a regional landfill. And he's got 2 funding partners, but he's continuing to work on a 3rd funding partner, either it be possibly Clay or St. John's or wherever the funding partner may come up in the next year or so. That on top of, right now he's trying to do his supervisor's position, he's trying to do everything he does, and then all 5 commissioners call him up when somebody says, there's some trees down on the side of the road over here, I need you to run out there and pick them up with the grapple truck. And so next thing you know, Jay's out there with a grapple truck because he doesn't have anybody to send out there with a grapple truck. So yes, I am in favor of your request today, but I'm also in favor of looking forward to doing what we were talking about getting those extra people on at the landfill to do those things that'll save us in the long run hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars, because we're gonna do in-house what we used to hire contractors to go out and do. And that's why we bought the additional equipment. And before I quit, I'm on board with Commissioner Adams' act about not wanting to grow government. But this, even though the government owns this, again, it's got to run like a business. It's got to.
Well, it's an enterprise fund.
Right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Adam, Zach, I think, yeah, you're number 2.
Yeah, in this case, I fully support the growth of the government, because there's a purpose to it, right? So I enjoyed our conversation. You laid it out really good for me yesterday, and I appreciate it very much. So I just wanted to say that, and that the only question I had is, in an org chart structure, he'd report to you, or he or she would report
Yes, sir.
to you. Now, would they have direct reports as well coming into them?
Oh, yes, sir.
What would that look like? Would that be
So
the
they
direct
would-
reports?
they-
Would they be like the Crescent City and Interlochen people that work that area coming into him or her?
Basically,
to
everybody
you?
would fall under this person.
Okay.
My administrator would kind of be right in line, who I have, who handles, she keeps me out of trouble with paperwork, because there's a considerable amount of paperwork and everything that goes along with a landfill and trainings, as well as she's also my mosquito control manager. So it's kind of finding her spot in there, but everything else operationally would report to this person directly under me.
So basically, that allows you to do the business of the county.
The
'cause it is-
strategic
in
things
this
going
case, it is a
forward,
business.
look for those partners, look for initiatives, try to get better, to where we can, like tires is a big deal. I'm looking at some initiatives and things like that right now to have sustainable growth that we need there at the landfill, but also be able to take care of our constituents who are the citizens of this county.
And update the long-term plan, which
Yep.
he's been trying to find time to do since he's been here.
Absolutely. So it lets you be more strategic, basically.
It
So-
does, and it allows me to also work with our consultants, where in the past it's just kind of been, what do we need? But we want to look at it from a businessman's perspective, being efficient, cost savings, and make sure that we cover all our bases from an environmental perspective.
Thank you, Jay.
Great, Mr. Rawls.
So I fully support this. I underline where you have more leadership oversight, more insight for illegal dump sites, manage collection contractor complaints, add depth to the organizational structure, closer oversight to scheduling, productivity improvement. When I first went into business, my partner told me my job was to replace myself. Your job is to replace yourself.
Yes, sir.
That's what you're doing.
Yes, sir.
So I support it.
Mr. Pickens.
Yeah, I agree. Jay, we hired you for a particular reason, and bringing something like this that is needed. So I accept that. And the illegal dumping, we've been talking about that for a while. It's continued to, it's rampant through the whole county. So I agree. As long as this is gonna it looks like it'll take some stuff off of you that you're doing, enable you to free yourself up to do the other things that you need to do, so.
I like getting out in the county. Please don't mistake, I like going out when somebody gives a complaint. I don't mind going and talking to a citizen, and then I'll go talk to Waste Pro about why they won't back down my driveway. But I can't get to everybody, and move forward like I feel like I need to. And adding this position, I feel like will be a benefit to my division.
Somebody asked me yesterday, what can I do to help you? And I said, split me into 4 pieces.
Sure.
Amen, brother.
Yep, you're right. And Jay, I'll compliment you on that.
Wait a minute, 4 Jeffs?
If, Mr. Chairman,
I wasn't
Mr.
done
Chairman,
yet.
what do we need to do from here, Terry? Do we just need to approve that this happened and let y'all go on and try to find this person that has been at this new position?
Absolutely. When Jay brought this idea to me a while back and put the paperwork together, it was absolutely a need that he needed. So we just need board approval today to give us the authority to.
On it by consensus or by
No, we're gonna do a
motion?
motion.
Let's do motion.
I'm gonna do a motion.
I move that we accept this proposal and move it forward.
Second.
Proper motion by Commissioner Turner, proper second by Commissioner Rawls. Any further discussion? I want to say this. I fought very hard to keep that landfill. And I took a lot of beating over that, my first trial by fire, if you will. But I saw the potential out there. And I completely wholeheartedly agree with Commissioner Turner. Sometimes government isn't a business, and it should be. But in this case, it is. It needs to be run like a business. And it's trying to make money, and it is. And I appreciate that, because eventually it makes money to reduce the burden on the taxpayers of Putnam County.
Yep.
And I saw that. And believe me, I held that torch at the University of Florida. I know what the end game is eventually. And we're going to bury all this stuff, and one day we're going to dig it all back up and create some type of usable product at it. I got that. But when I walked in there and saw who the sponsors of that, of the Hinkle Center of Solid Waste Management at UF, and those were the big players in the garden, I figured it out. I followed the money. And I'm not saying that bad. It's just the way you're making money going in, you're going to make money coming out. If we can stop that and we can make our own money and bring it back to the citizens of Putnam County, I'll support any project you have for that landfill. Trust me. Mr. Adams, on discussion?
Yeah, the only thing I just want to make sure is, and I assume it's the case, but I didn't ask you because it didn't come to my mind, but your budget currently allows for this position, this extended salary, right?
I've got the monies in there. It's just working with,
So we
Yes,
don't
sir,
have,
Mr.
we don't have to
Adams.
pull from any other alternative sources, so perfect, thank you.
No, the landfill has their own.
They're swimming in cash.
Yeah, they don't.
I just want to make sure.
The fact, that's who we borrow money from when we get in a tight.
Mr. Pickens,
You
have
just
the floor.
kind of pointed over there that you got to work with.
well, Miss Julianne, I go to her first,
all right,
and then
I
I
just
get to
wanted
the
you to-
boss.
I wanted you to,
Yeah,
tell us
no,
who you had to
I-
work with.
Hey,
over there.
if nothing else, I'm correctable. I try to learn, so I make sure I do it right.
And Jay, I just want to thank you because I know that you'll get out. I mean, you've come down and picked up stuff for me. You've talked to, irate citizens, and I truly appreciate that. You've never shied away from that.
Yes, sir.
All
I
right.
can say one more thing. I think it's safe to say, with 39,000 homes in the county, we're talking about 75 cents per home per year. So if you can get us a savings of $1 per house this year in our budget, who can complain?
That's right.
Might even do better than that.
That's right. All right, we have a motion on the floor and a second. Further discussions, hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. The ayes have it. Thank you, Mr. Tilton, for bringing
Thank you all
that
very
forward.
much.
Next thing on is our transportation workshop. Mr. Troxel, this is you. I'm sorry now. Now I can call you up. This is something we visited back in 2018.
Yes, good afternoon, Commissioners. Yeah, this first one was addressed back in 2018. I believe at the time it was just, the Commissioners told us to work with the homeowners back there to make this happen. Something happened and it got dropped. I want to pick it back up again. Driving down 310, that Little Road is a private road. However, it's got an old boiler pipe in there and it's starting to rust out very badly. And with the amount of water that comes down 310, I believe it's in the betterment of the county's interest to replace this pipe. I know it's on our county road, but.
Well, here's what we did. Just like Mr. Troxel said, the board asked Mr. Troxel, well, not you at the time, Mr. Tompkins, to go out there, work with the residents. As he said, Litzel Road is a private road, but this culvert's in our right of way.
It's in our right of way.
And it helps move the water down County Road 3.
And when it caves in, it blocks all the water for the whole area
Whole
from
area.
draining into drainage.
Yes.
Goes washing out 310.
Yeah, I remember this conversation, I do. I think that was the time that Danny Tilton came to see us.
It was.
Yes, okay. So I remember the conversation pretty good. I thought it'd already been taken care of. I'm sorry, so.
No, but what I want to do is, I believe it is in the best interest of the county to replace that pipe.
Yeah.
Now, I've gotten a price for a contractor to come and take it out if we provide the pipe. It was $2,000, but that was with sandbag ends. What I'd like to do is look at this a little bit further, but I still believe this is a county responsibility, so that we can keep 310 open for water flow down through that road.
Mr. Troxel, Mr. Adamsack has a question.
I fully support this, and I do not believe that those residents living beyond that culvert should be responsible for it, because it is in our right of way. It does connect our two ditches that we need to drain that road in that area.
I'm not so sure, if I may, Mr.
may.
Chairman, I'm not so sure the county didn't put this culvert in originally way back when.
That's very
either.
possible.
I mean, this thing's been there since I was young,
Yep.
real young. So it's been a long time, you betcha, a good culvert.
It's an older, really thick, I believe someone said it was a boiler pipe, but it's undersized as well.
Okay, are you gonna just sandbag both sides, or you gonna put slopes on
I
it?
wanna slope it. I need to concrete and slope it.
Yeah.
The price I got from a contractor was a sloped sandbag in, but I don't want
But
that.
it was sloped?
Yeah,
Okay.
Do you you
Well-
need more money than $2,000?
not necessarily, because I think our guys can do the mitered ends on it. So it'll probably be a little less than $2,000. If I provide the pipe, which I have the pipe.
If we give you authorization to do not spend over $2,500, can you go do this project for the additional work other than the pipe itself?
It'll be close. I will
So
find
you
out.
need
but
more than the 2,000.
If we have a contractor do the whole thing, yeah.
Well, I think it would be to our advantage to have a contractor
Contractors
do
do
it,
the
because
whole
then we're out doing work that we need to be doing normally that we can't do if you've got all your whole crew out there putting in a culvert. These guys put in culverts, sorry to say this, possibly faster than you do.
Oh,
So,
absolutely. That's like, it's gonna be a bigger culvert.
With half the people,
Yeah, so
Yeah, they can do it in a day.
what number do you need? 3,000?
It's gonna be closer to it. I'm still gonna provide the pipe, so he was gonna put it in and do the sandbag walls for 2,000. So what I can probably do is get back with him, see if he can do the mitered
size
ends,
is the pipe?
concrete mitered ends.
Oh, it's big.
I'm putting, the current pipe there is probably only a 18 to 24 inch pipe. It's small. I wanna put a 36-inch pipe in there. It's,
Mr. Chairman,
lot
I
of water
move that
flowing
we
through.
authorize him up to, for not to exceed $3,000, not including the pipe cost that he's gonna furnish to go get somebody to do this for
Second.
him.
A proper motion by Commissioner Turner, proper second by Commissioner Adamsack. Any further discussion? Up to $3,000 to fix that. Hearing none, all in favor signify.
Where are we paying for it from, Julianne? Is it coming out of reserves or out of his budget?
His budget.
I still have enough in there to cover this.
Okay, good.
Mr. Chairman, if we could, when you're making your motion, would you also state that it's for a public purpose so we can get that on the motion as well.
He
sir,
mentioned that, but go
I'll
ahead.
amend my motion to include that I feel like it's for the best public purpose to try to keep the drainage in that area open and the road open and flowing.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Adams. So we've amended our motion for the public purpose portion up to $3,000 to fix this culvert on the county right-of-way. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign, the ayes have it. Next, Mr. Troxel, single source procurement for horse landing and LC Drive.
Absolutely. You kind of briefed on this project a little bit this
Yeah, we talked to this before.
Yeah. You know, we always have these E1 lift stations all over the place. We want to stick with that single, since we have that one, we want to stick with that single septic pump. And so what we want to do is, in this project, is we want to go ahead and purchase them ourselves, have them ready for the contractor to install. It's going to save us a little bit of overhead, because if the contractor buys them, he's going to buy them and then mark them up, that we have to buy them from him. Plus, I can get them here a little quicker.
I have a question.
Mr. Rawls.
When I first looked at this, I put one of these in my own personal house, and I didn't go with E1 because I didn't want a polyethylene tank. I wanted something that would last longer. I use a Liberty system, and I paid less money. And I'm just wondering if, you know, I got stainless steel rails. While I don't have a traffic-rated lid, it's rated heavy enough for a small pickup truck. And we don't have anything like that with these E1 pumps, and we're spending more money. You know, I've got the 4-foot spun fiberglass tank and all that fun stuff, and Liberty Omnivore pump, which is better rated. So I'm just wondering why we continue to go down this road with E1. I know that's what we started with, but when you get a salesman in front of you, they can sell ice cubes to an Eskimo. But if nobody's taking a look at what we're actually getting and what's actually out there that might be more competitive or a better product, I just wonder if it's not time to switch horses.
Well, there's two reasons why we do want to go with E1. One is our existing personnel are trained. They have trained our folks to maintain
There's
their
no
system.
difference, though, between one system and another.
Not a lot, but there is some. And the other one is that when we get this grant, we have to keep so much back stock of parts. That's part of the grant that we get for these. And so, again, I have to minimize that amount of different parts and pieces that we have in our shop.
But right now, you don't have that many people connected to sewer, and we are responsible for these in perpetuity. And what I'm saying is another commission down the road is going to get handed a lot of replacement in the future. And when these tanks fail, and they will, because they're polyethylene, they don't last forever. That's the reason why most design engineers like RCP and metal versus PE pipe. You got a PE tank here, and they're very thin. If somebody rolls over the top of it and hits it with their lawnmower, it's our tank. We're responsible for it. Correct. It's in their yard, obviously, but we took on that responsibility. So I'm just saying, it might be worth you looking at. And I've got the information right across the street sitting on my desk. If you want, I'll share it with you on the Liberty systems. But, you know, if we switch horses now, you'd have Omnivore pumps on a shelf and E1 pumps on a shelf. That's the only difference. Otherwise, they're installed the exact same way.
Okay, Mr. Adams,
I kind of have a similar concern, and there's several other vendors, not just Liberty or E1. I mean, I did a Google thing, and there was all kinds of people that make these pumps. As far as, I don't know enough about it from a technical perspective, which pump's better or whatever, but I really would like to see options. I'm not into single source, and in this case where there's so many other vendors, I'd like to see what the pros and cons of at least a few of them are. Whether it's like Jeff's saying for specific type enclosure being made of poly, whatever you said. That may be important to me or not, but I mean, the life expectancy, having some data on what the mean time to failure is after the 5 years, things like that from whatever multiple companies that we get quotes from. The worst thing we could have happen is after 5 years, we get a major fallout. And also, is there an option maybe for the vendor to hold our 10 extras there if we buy a quantity of them? I mean, people do that. At least we do it in the computer business. Anyhow, but just some options. I don't like going single vendor. Now, I understand we're up against a time crunch at June 30th. I hate that that seems to be the case more often than I'd like, but I don't like if that's the pressure behind getting it done right now.
It's part of it, but I think we've
I feel like we're in that unfortunate situation more times than we should be, but
we've advertised the whole project early enough where we can get an award. So that's not a driving factor for this. The driving factor for me is the standardization of parts and training.
and that's not even to mention my general objection to furthering this project, but thank you.
Mr. Turner?
Okay, I don't want anybody in the room to pass out, but I totally agree with Commissioner Rawls on this.
Let me see, hang on.
Can we get the Gold Star program going again?
No one has passed out.
Yeah,
Everybody's
okay.
good.
I understand the theory for single source, I really do, but I don't think this, in my book, this doesn't meet single source. Single source, I understand that you're wanting to have one type of unit throughout the whole county. But it's not like we're going one unit in one house, one unit the house next door, one unit the house next door. We're talking about a whole new deal. Horseman's Club, Elsie Drive, a whole new deal. It's not very hard, nor does it take a brain surgeon to remember that, okay, we got this type of unit and all those over there, and we got this type of unit and all them over there. So if there's another unit that's, the availability is the same, the option is the same, I think we need to look at possibly looking for a second unit. And then it may turn out, like Commissioner All says, it may turn out that second unit's a lot better, and then you end up changing out all them other ones when they go bad in a few years, instead of just trying to single source to them. So I think this is one instance that I just do not single source on, my personal. And as far as the time comment, I know that it seems like, and this isn't directed at you, I know you've been here like 3 minutes in government time, but we do need to work on how quick we get projects out the door. You know, the East Plaquemine drainage mitigation, it's on the street, finally, we're, finally fixing to get started and ready to go. Hell, we got the first money for that 2 years ago. Shouldn't take 2 years to get something going on. So, so anyhow, I'd like to see us try to not be the last.
Oh, no, you did not do that.
Don't be a smart ass.
Yeah, calm that voice down.
He can.
I'll hide your gavel if you're not careful. So anyhow, if we could work towards trying to get some of these projects out, it's been going on for years that we wait till last minute and then it all of a sudden turns the whole project into a big rush. Yeah, emergency. It takes something that's been going on 3 years, and if we don't have it out the door by 26 days, we're gonna lose our state funding. We got to do better, Mike, and I'm not blaming that on you, I get it, but we need to try to identify not just this one, but others too.
Correct.
That are coming and try to get them out ahead of, not last minute deals. So, thank you.
Before I call on Commissioner Pickens, I'll take a point of privilege if you don't mind. When I first got here, Commissioner Rawls, exactly what I said to them. I started research. I researched a lot of stuff. I had a lot of time on my hands back then. So I researched a lot, and you're right. There's all kinds of different submersible pumps. I even went to a convention where they threw a pair of jeans inside one, and it chewed it up and spit it out. And I went to one of our employees, and he said, "I don't care how you get your crap to me," not in that nice of a word, as long as you get it to me in the function that you can get it to me and my system allows it to take place. So I have to agree that, and I think you and I have had this conversation even as of recent about this. And maybe I did even back then and 7 years ago said that these systems that we have are too expensive. And one day the bill's gonna come due to the homeowner. Somebody's gonna be responsible, either the county or I know we are. Either we're gonna do it or we're gonna try to force it back on the landowner. It's gonna be expensive. So if we can, And we all know, like I just said, the genes got ate up through this pump. If we find something cheaper, better, that might help offset some of those costs going into the future. So, Commissioner Pickens, you have the floor, sir.
Yeah, I agree with that. I guess these pumps are pretty much interchangeable without a lot of,
Just piping, yeah.
You basically have a wet well, but each pump manufacturer has a base that they sit on. So you can't take an E1 pump out and drop a Liberty pump in and have it mount on their base. The low-hanging fruit is to rip the whole thing out of the ground, drop a whole new wet well in one piece. It literally, you dig a hole, drop in, connect a pipe, hook up your power, you're done. If you're going E1 for E1, you can just drop a pump in. But my concern, honestly, and what we're trying to avoid is the nitrate loading in the earth. And when these tanks start leaking, and they will, then we've gone the opposite direction of where we wanted to go to begin with, which is leaking poop back in the ground. And
That answer your question?
yeah, it does. So, but I do think that if you can get to a point to determine which one, and I hope a bunch of them don't go bad for you to figure this out, which one is the best pump for the best price, and then stay with that, then I understand the consistency in having one product that you're dealing with, you know, for the training, parts, all that kind of stuff.
Well, I mean, that'll change over time as well. New pumps will come along, so I get it. But what I would still like to do is purchase them outside of the contract.
right, on
Okay.
direct.
Yeah, I think we all get that.
Okay.
And I want to defend you for a moment. I know you inherited projects, a lot of projects, and you heard this morning how many projects are really out there. And I think our first conversation this morning was, do you think you can get those dirt to pave done this year in the year that we approved them in? And you said, I can probably get them done by calendar year, but fiscal year is going to be very difficult. But maybe next year, we can get the ones in the fiscal year. That's a great improvement, because at least we're not 2 years down the road looking at projects that we've done. Because it's kind of hard in our position to go out there and tell the taxpayer, yeah, your road's coming, and they ain't seen nothing for a while, you know, but you've moved them. You've moved them a lot faster, so I appreciate that. I know it's difficult to get those things cranked out. There's a lot of moving parts, but I thank you for that. Commissioners, what do you want to do? Send him back to the drawing table on this one?
Well, he just needs to go find a proposal that will allow him not to single source it, but actually maybe bid it out between a couple of them and follow procurement code and then buy them in-house.
Good. I'm good with that. By consensus, we're all good? Everybody good? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Troxel. And the next thing is Public Works Task Order number 9.
Yeah, this one is, I liken this similar to what you guys just talked with Jay about. And this is for our water plant. You know, we got to operate our water plant like a business as well. Part of that is running new water lines, getting new people hooked up. This proposal I got from Matthews Design Group will run, it's designed to run water throughout San Mateo. And I think I forgot to send the maps with the first group, so you should have got an addendum with the other maps. But these are the water lines that they will design, the layout, and we can pick and choose later on how we want to fund them or for construction, whether we get a grant, whether we.
I don't have those maps.
It's in
Yeah?
your very back of the
Oh,
red
okay.
one.
Sarah messed up my book this morning.
But my proposal now is so that
I
we can
told you I was
start.
going to throw you.
But this proposal is to start that process.
This is great.
I need to get more water customers hooked up. I need to get more sewer customers hooked up, because right now, you know, that water plant costs a lot of money to build, and we're running on a quarter of the capacity of that water tank, the water plant. This will get us started in that direction.
Okay, Mr. Turner has a question for you, Mr. Troxel.
Okay, I've been talking to Mr. Troxel some. One of the items in our audit that we just received was that, the self-sustaining issue for water and sewer in East Palaca. We've talked about it for a while now, that it needs to become more self-sustaining. And I think during that conversation, multiple commissioners, commented on the fact that you can't you can't make something like this happen without investing some in trying to make it happen. It's just not gonna do it by itself. So I think, I look at this issue as the first step in trying to move our water and sewer system in East Palaca to a self-sustaining system. If the quicker the better. I mean, we've got money set aside in reserves in the Better Place plan to take care of this system past the Better Place plan. I think it's $550,000 a year, if my memory serves me correct, and it's been going on for a while now. Once that system becomes self-sustaining, if I understand correctly, it'll free up all that money that we've saved all these years to make sure that we meet that challenge or that responsibility, and we won't have to put it forward for the rest of it. So the faster we can make this thing break even, the better off every single citizen in Putnam County is going to be. So I am fully in favor of starting this process today by giving Matthews this task order to start this process and start moving this thing towards sustainability. Thank you, Mr.
Mr.
Chairman.
Wallace, thank you, Mr. Turner.
I agree 100% with what Commissioner Turner just said. I would like you to talk to us about the condition of the water plant and the water tower and what challenges we're facing with that.
The water plant is a little over 10 years old now, so we're starting to have some I would say maintenance issues, but it's starting to have some wear on it. So we are spending a little bit more money every year in maintaining that thing. The water tower itself, we're about finished with it. We're about 90% designed for the way to
Bypass.
circumvent around that thing with some VFDs. I think they had to work on the electrical cabinets, is why it's taking a little bit longer, but so that I can take that water tower down, clean it, and then put it back in service, because I still want to use that water tower. I just need a way to pump water around it while we clean it versus having a diver going in that tank, which costs a lot of money.
And we're going to descale it and code it, correct?
Yes.
So what are you looking at? Is any of that money budgeted right now? Or would that be coming in this next budget?
For the water tank cleaning?
Yeah.
It is budgeted.
It is budgeted
Yes.
now, okay.
I'm just waiting on the final design for the VFDs that we want to put in that system. As soon as that's done, we'll get that one on the street and get it out. And then once that's finished, we can clean the tank.
Variable frequency drive,
I was gonna ask.
for those of you who don't know. I got it.
Okay.
Like that tells me a lot.
It means they can vary the speed of the pumps. And why, so you can ramp the pumps up and produce or push more water later if you need to when higher demand and slow them down? Is that what it-
Absolutely, yeah, that's why we want the VFDs, because right now it's on or off.
Right.
And so I can't push that much
Really?
pressure through,
Wow.
That doesn't make any sense.
well, no, it doesn't make sense.
Chairman,
You know, when I'm pumping up to the water tower, it's not a big
but this
issue.
doesn't
No,
Right.
I think we need to hear it, so, I mean, so we're not caught off guard later, but, all right, I agree, we're gonna have to, if we get the design in place for the future water lines, then, we're starting to get a lot of people interested in Putnam County. I really wish I could share with you some of the stuff that I hear on a weekly basis, from outside interests and people that are wanting to move here. We got a lot of houses that are in a position to be able to be bought, torn down, and rebuilt, and especially in the San Mateo area. So I think there's really no reason why we shouldn't have this teed up and ready to go, because the design won't go bad.
Exactly. And this was my first take, because this was the one with the most bang for the buck, so to speak. I do have others laid out as well, how we want to go ahead and start doing this, but I would like to see if one of the commissioners would like to join me in helping beef up that plant and increase the capacity of that thing. I know you're working with Animal Control, so I don't know if, Mr. Turner, it's in your district, so if you would want to work with me on
Whoa,
do
did
that.
he drop the ball?
I'll
on
help you. And something
I'll
else
be
too, by the
happy
way.
to if y'all will give me the authority to do it like you gave me the authority to do the landfill. where
This
I
also
go
has to do with
him
fire-
and make
fire-
recommendations back
Absolutely.
to the board.
This has to do with fire protection and our ISO classification. That all falls into it.
Like I said, I don't mind as long as the commission gives us, the authority to me like we did the landfill and like what have you.
We'll
So,
make a motion, just Mr. Adams, that?
I'm all for it being run as a business, and I'm all for expanding it. I just think we need to have a plan to connect people who aren't connected to existing infrastructure, whether that's give them a year to do it and then we start enforcement or whatever it is, we need to start having a plan. And then for this new infrastructure, before we build it, we need to have a plan for making sure people connect to it in a timely fashion. As long as we do those two things, my overall objection to the sewer and the water thing goes away. But as long as we're losing money because people are refusing to connect, that's not running a business effectively, especially not when there is statute that allows for us to have people connect.
Well, if I may, Mr.
You may,
Chairman.
Mr. Turner.
The exact same comment for the landfill goes here. The government may own this, but at some point, this thing's got to run like a business. It's a business arm of the government, the utility arm of the government. And so, you know, like I said, if y'all vote to let me do it, I'll do it, no problem. But that's where we're gonna move towards. We're gonna try to come up with plans and recommendations to try to move this to a sustaining system that will make business sense to own it for the county.
Mr. Rawls?
I agree with Commissioner Adams' Act. And I spoke to Mr. Commando about this last time it was brought up and asked him if we really have the authority to do it. And his answer was yes, but nobody's really ever done it. And I don't know if we try to put this burden on people, and it would be a financial burden, we may have to spend the money to get them connected right out of the gate, because to abandon a septic tank, the permit's between $400 and $500 plus the cost of the abandonment.
And I've seen municipalities go both ways, though. When Crescent City did their deal and they put in their deal, they gave them 2 years to sign up and hook up, and if they didn't, they'd do it and come and add it to their tax bill.
Right.
So, and it was like $2,200, because, Bill
talking a lot
probably
more
knows
than that,
better than
though.
me. Weren't you living in Crescent City then? So you had to abandon your own septic tank. You had to actually pay for the line to hook it into the street, if my memory serves me correct.
Yeah, but the cost is a lot more than a couple of thousand. We're talking, if you buy the tank and pump set up for $3,000 a piece, you've got another $1,500 to connect it. You gotta have an electrician come in and run a service to it. Then you've gotta connect it to the sewer.
Find grants maybe for some of that.
That's not
but
water. That doesn't
we've
include
got-
water.
We've got to start working towards an
I agree.
overall sustainability plan for that.
I agree.
system.
I think the broader conversation needs to be us going out to the public and somehow engaging them and getting them to understand that, and I don't have a problem taking this path whatsoever. But if we're gonna do this, then I think we need to have a conversation, start a clock, let them know, 2 years date certain, this is what's gonna happen. The other part is, we have to work in their yard with this sewer system that we have. And how do you impose that? Rich, how do you impose a sewer system in somebody's yard if they don't want it?
How do you oppose it?
If somebody says, you're not gonna put that in my yard,
I think you can fine them for it, but, I mean,
if they say you can't put your pump in my yard to pump the sewer to your street, how do we work in private property against their will?
You know, before we
Okay.
cross that road, let's try to get as many grants as we can to hook as many people up as we can. And if we get 80% of the people in the neighborhood hooked up through a grant or through whatever, then, you know.
I agree, but
then
last time we
the-
did this, we were spending
Well, I told the
$12,000
people
a
in
house.
I understand, but I
Okay, guys,
told one
that
of the, I'm
burns
not
me.
arguing,
Yeah.
sir. I'm not.
Mr. Adams' Act is on.
Okay.
I think the statute
He's a
allows for
rookie.
5 years on their tax roll for it to be, the cost to be spread over 5 years, I think is what this, I didn't bring it with me today, but I had it with me last
Well, I
meeting.
think the bottom line
But
here,
there's a methodology, I guess,
I
is what I'm
think we
saying.
just
to
need to
spread it.
move
bottom line
forward.
is to let Commissioner, if the board feels, and I do feel this way, that Commissioner Turner could
Yep.
step in and be our go person on this and look at the whole thing as a big, and then bring it down to where we can manage it. I think that's good. You already hear what we all want to do, so that's not, we're all singing the same song. It might just be in a little different key, that's all. But
Okay. Well, before
we
y'all
do have to
give,
vote on this
before
today.
y'all give me another job, let's go on and move
I'll
this
make a
one
motion to
forward.
approve.
All right, so we do have recommended action today, so we need approval, so the chair will entertain a motion.
So
on
moved.
it. Have a motion by Commissioner Adams Act to do the.
Rawls.
Rawls, I'm
We
sorry.
sound the same.
I'm here, I heard that from over here, I swear I did.
You need hearing aids.
Yeah, I do.
Here.
You want to swap them as we go? Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Commissioner Turner seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. No one's nay. Good. We are going to bring a topic down, item D on your agenda this morning.
Mr. Chairman, if you want me to work on it, y'all are gonna have to make a motion to give me the authority like you did on the landfill.
So moved.
Got a motion for give Commissioner Turner the authority to work on it with Mr. Troxel,
Second.
second by Commissioner Adamsack. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign, the ayes have it. Commissioner Turner has the authority to go out and do this.
He didn't give me a chance to vote no, did he?
No. We don't have time for that. We gotta move on. Okay, item D, Commissioner Rawls, you asked if we could postpone this meeting, this item until today. So you have the floor, sir. This is to adopt the resolution authorizing the chairman to execute any formal agreements, unified plan for allocation and use of opioid settlement proceeds.
So-
If you remember, I'll set the stage a little bit. Mr. Commando can clean it up for me. We hired outside counsel to gather money to represent us in the opioid settlement, if there was any. It appears that there is going to be something coming back to the state of Florida, and then something coming to the county. So, Mr. Commando, I'll let you run with that.
So you'll hear it referred to as MDL, meaning multi-district litigation. There are a number of different class action lawsuits that are existing around the country. The ones that are being talked about right now are the Johnson & Johnson, and I forgot what the second company was. So in addition to counties that have gone out on their own, retained counsel, like we have the Romano Law Group that's representing us, there are a number of counties that didn't engage their own counsel, and the state of Florida, the Attorney General's office, has also been fighting on behalf of the state. As they are moving towards a settlement across multiple states, they're encouraging local counties and cities, so it's not just the counties, who have engaged in this type of litigation to come to an agreement on a different settlement structure. There is talk about, for the municipalities and counties that don't agree to this agreement, that there may be penalties as far as what they're able to recover. There's a list of specific uses that the money on the statewide level and on a local level can be used for, as far as treatment, awareness programs, there are pages and pages of what that money can be used for. The state is also going to hold a chunk of the money. They'll provide some treatment through the Department of Corrections, and I presume they would also provide some of the awareness and treatment options available. As the litigation's moved forward, there's been a lot of discussion on what the fair amount is per state, per municipality, and they came up with an analysis. That analysis looked at how many opiates were sold within the jurisdictional bounds of the county.
We're number one.
Believe it or not, what they're looking at what's legally sold. Then they also look at the number of deaths that are opiate.
We're number one for the past 6 years.
Okay, well, they also look at how many deaths are related to opiates, and I apologize, off the top of my head, I forgot what the third criteria was. And they use that to come up with a sheet, and they look at both counties and municipalities as far as what they anticipate you may be able to, I say you, we as a county may be able to recover. So that's the status of the litigation right now. So the law firms, as well as the Attorney General's office, have partnered together, and the Attorney General's office is essentially speaking with the unrepresented counties about passing almost the identical resolution. And then on our behalf, because we have the Romano Law Group that's representing Putnam County, they provided us a copy of the resolution that's in your packet today.
Here's my concern. On page 47, number 2 says, support and reimburse evidence-based services that adhere to American Society of Addiction Medicines. Jeremy and his wife are here. I'm glad you're here because I wasn't expecting it, but I don't think that they would qualify for evidence-based, but the evidence shows that what they're doing works. And then you read on further down on number 7, support evidence-based withdrawal management services for people with OUD and any occurring mental health conditions. And then when you get down to number 9 and 10, It talks about support workforce development, but that's for the addiction professionals, but it's not talking about workforce development for the people that have the addictions. And I guess my concern is this a rope that we're putting around our own neck if we agree to this MOU? Because it says, you're saying that this is conditional for the use of the money, for the settlement money, correct?
It is, but I'll tell you, after listening to Jeremy's presentation at the last meeting, I would argue that they are evidence-based.
Yeah,
I don't know that we would get,
Well, I would like a definition of evidence-based because when it says support and reimburse evidence-based services that adhere to the American Society of Addiction Medicine. Jeremy, do you guys adhere to the American Society of Addiction Medicine? Have you ever heard of it?
Okay, wait a minute, before we do this from the audience,
well, and Mr. Chair.
let me get you up here in a minute. Go ahead, Rich,
If
finish.
you look at number 7, I mean, number 7 would cover what they do anyway. I mean, they are providing a number of different services. And I guess my thought is when the money's passed down to the county, you're gonna be the group that decides how that money gets spent within these criteria. You're gonna be the one that decides.
Are we
what
held to
those-
this at that point?
When you say held to it, this is what the money's intended to be used for. Now, if they were applying for money from the Attorney General's office at the state level, like BOCC money is now, I would anticipate that that's gonna be a different level of scrutiny for that money. But from everything that I've seen, I'm not concerned about
No, I'm
what
not
you're
either.
describing at all.
So basically, we're not really linking one issue to the other. We're just saying we want to do the resolution in order to get the money when and if it shows up.
Yes, and they're talking about like within the next weeks or months, they expect, if there's enough support, they're expecting a settlement to go through.
Do you think that we're gonna get enough to even cover what we put in legal costs, or do we have any idea about any numbers yet?
So the legal costs right now are looking at, they say between 0 and 10% of the total aggregate money. I don't know that we're not gonna be out of pocket for that. That'll get paid out of the settlement claim.
Mr. Turner, Mr. Adams, that
Oh,
cat
I'm
is
sorry,
That's
Mr.
okay.
Chairman. Workshop.
The numbers, Jeff, Mr. Commissioner Rawls, I hate the technicality of it, but Commissioner Rawls, the numbers are based on per thousand, so it sounds like what Mr. Commando's saying, or our attorney's saying, is it's based on number of prescriptions total. So a county that has 3 million people is gonna, even though they're only doing 300 per 1,000 people, is gonna write more prescriptions in a total. So we're the number one on per 1,000 citizens, not on per prescription total.
Yeah, and I
Just so
agree.
you know, so just to waylay that concern. And then, I support this. I think we need to do it. And if the bottom line is, if Jeremy's group was eliminated because of the type of thing they did, we have plans to do things on our own, and maybe we use this money to pay something that we're doing now, and then shift that money to an organization like Jeremy, if that's how we decide to go forward. So I think there's ways we could do it either way.
Commissioner, I agree with you on that. And also, Commissioner Rawls understands that you like every word explained in detail, but in some cases, it might be better that we don't do that.
No,
It gives us a little wiggle room.
but if we sign off on this and that's my question, are we stuck to this? If the answer is no, then I'm fine with it.
I can only see the money coming to us and us being able to
Yeah.
do what our community dictates needs to be done.
One of the
And I
things,
feel
Rich,
very comfortable with that.
on page 39, Exhibit A is actually Schedule A. It has 2 schedules, not exhibits.
Okay. So the recommendation is to adopt a resolution. So Commissioner Rawls, you pulled this. Are you prepared to go forward?
So, here, hang on a second.
Okay.
So we're thinking about turning down free money to help the
No,
area that we've been
no,
talking about?
no, we're not thinking about that.
So there's one,
We're not thinking about that at all.
All
All right,
I'll make a motion.
Okay, Mr. Rawls,
Motion moving forward.
move approval of adopting the resolution.
Second.
Okay, we have a proper motion by Commissioner Rawls, proper second by Commissioner Adams. Any further discussion on this matter?
Nope.
Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Thank you. That item carried. Sarah, you got a few things in workshop today that we passed, so. Okay. Commissioner comments, I'll start with Commissioner Adamzak.
Oh, me first this time? I didn't give you it earlier. I guess from the earlier meeting, I'm all for us resuming the quarterly evening meetings. I guess I'd just like to know when we want to start doing that.
On
Could have that
on
discussion.
top of the monthly meetings y'all are doing?
We've already missed April and January.
Yeah, those are, so the last one was January of last year, and I guess what I would
understand,
suggest.
but y'all are
'cause-
doing monthly meetings,
cause-
that's what I'm asking. You want to
I'm
do
just going based
monthly,
on Mr.
monthly town hall meetings and quarterly town hall meetings?
I'll do a weekly meeting if you.
Well, I
hold them.
understand. We'll go ahead, but that doesn't
Yeah.
mean I have to do it. If
No.
you have a reason for me being there, that'd be great. But
Sure, I don't know
I
if the
don't believe in
quarterly-
having meetings
Okay,
just to
okay.
have
Yeah.
meetings.
All right.
Just with what was talked about earlier, I just did,
Go ahead, Zach,
did
you
we
got
want to
it.
restart the quarterly meetings, when we want to start them? My suggestion would be, we avoid the January and July, and maybe start them in, only because that's 4th of July, because the original meeting that everyone agreed to was the first Tuesday in January, or first Thursday in January, first one, and then every quarterly. That gives you basically Christmas time when people are out, and then 4th of July week. I was just
Why
saying,
don't
if we
I-
do decide to revisit this, to
Why don't we
move
get
it
a
out a couple
calendar up?
weeks,
We'll
to
get a
maybe like
calendar.
August and something like that, just so it doesn't hit those two holidays. So that was my only suggestion there, and if we decide to do that. Municipality meetings, I will say, I sat down with Mayor Hill as well as Commissioner Jones, and they both seemed on board with that, with the city, wanting to get that started. So I'm excited if we can get that started, when that would happen, and would love to start that. And that's one other thing that came up when a couple of times I've talked to Jay is there's some concerns that out in West Putnam, and then I understand in South Putnam as well, with people when they bring their garbage to the West Putnam and the South Putnam areas, that they gotta pay no matter what, basically, because there's no way to weigh it. Jay's looked into some stuff, and I think there's some options for scales, possibly used or new, if we're doing well enough with the garbage, to maybe expand that where we can weigh the garbage in those two locations, and then use that money, you basically take that from the people's 2,000 pounds or whatever it is that everyone's allotted. I think he said it was somewhere between, there's some used ones available for between 40 grand and 50 grand, and then a new one 70 to 80, so somewhere between 40 to 80,000 per location. Again, if we're doing that well with our waste department, to maybe do both or one of them in the next year, to try to help the community to not have to bring their garbage all the way to Palaca. It's an idea.
Mr.
That's what I
Turner.
Um, my problem is, if you wanna look at this from a business standpoint, it's hard to go spend $100,000. And I know we found a used one for 40 to 50, but we need two of them, one in West and one out there. It's hard for the county to spend 100,000 plus. I'm not even gonna mention the part about it starts out at 100, then it ends 150, and then it's 200. And next thing, and all we're doing it is to keep somebody where they can get their garbage for free instead of paying $3 a bag to dump it, or 50 cents a bag, or whatever it costs to dump it. So I understand, I get them too, Commissioner, I get them too. I get them all the time, from South and from West Putnam. But are we gonna run this like a business, or are we gonna run it like a government? If we're gonna run it like a business, then we can't spend $100,000+ where you can give your garbage away instead of having to pay $3 to dump your garbage.
So I'll put it like this, if it's like a business, the citizens are shareholders, and the citizens pay into that, the garbage fee. So the citizens in West Putnam and South Putnam should have the same access to bringing their garbage in for free as the citizens that live in Palaca. That's my
The
opinion.
landfill's here. If I'm,
Right,
if
so,
I'm
so
selling
if there was a
widgets-
scale in those two locations, they would be able to drop their
if
garbage
I'm
off closer to
selling
their home.
widgets and my principal location is in Palaca, that doesn't mean I have to give widgets away in Interlochen and Crescent City. That doesn't mean that. It means that my location is in Palaca. If they want to do it for free, they need to drive to Palaca, because we don't have a scale down there. I mean, it's simple.
Yep, and I'm proposing we look into purchasing two scales, one for South Putnam, one for West Putnam.
Okay.
I think that'd be, if you don't mind, I think that actually wouldn't be a bad idea. One of the problems that we're having is illegal dumping, and people complain about it all the time.
Yep.
This could be an route around it, but it could also be a revenue driver for the landfill to bring in more revenue. Even if it's net zero, on the revenue side, we still benefit by not having people dumping trash. I looked at a yard the other day and you couldn't see behind the shrubs, but once you got past them, somebody dumped 2 or 3 truckloads of garbage back there. And somebody's gonna have to, the people looking to buy the property have to clean it up.
Okay, Mr. Turner, your commissioner comments?
I think I've had enough for the day, Mr. Chairman. Thank you already.
I want to add on the landfill. I think they ought to probably look at the scales, because they haven't had scales in a long time. Now, I understand,
Looking at them.
and I think Jay, I talked to him about it, there's a consistency up there. The complaints I get is really when they take the construction debris there, as they're doing a tape measure and stuff, I would assume that the scale would eliminate that.
Yeah.
That type thing. And it is a long way up to Palaca, there's no question about that. But I also understand that those convenience centers, that's what they are, they're convenient and they're very expensive to operate. So, but I think if we just look at it, then maybe down the road.
All right, I'll get on my soapbox. They're not convenient. There's nothing convenient about hitting your head on the pole, unloading your truck at these collection sites. What's good for the county, in my opinion, is the fact that we don't, when you pull up there and they say it's gonna be $45 and the guy says, I don't have $45 cash, and he's gonna go home empty no matter what at that point. So he's gonna find a road, he's gonna find a patch of woods, he's gonna find bushes, and he's gonna dump that. He's not driving to Palaca to do that. And I think that at the long run, we'll save money, we'll have a better county, a cleaner county, if we use our collection center in the manner it was supposed to be done. The real reason, and I think Commissioner Pickens, you were there when we started this conversation, was the fact that, well, we didn't have a centralized system to communicate with the central landfill on when you brought your stuff to the collection center. Well, that turned out to be not true whatsoever. That was way before Mr. Tilton arrived. That was the last administration on that landfill. And I went out there and I said, show me your computer software that you use. Well, we don't use one, we use a card catalog.
You
So-
what?
So they use a card catalog, index cards. And they pulled your name out and they wrote your name down. So at the end of the day, I said, you know what? An Excel spreadsheet sent out once a week solves this problem because you got frequent flyers. My father-in-law went to the dump every day for whatever reason, took the young lady a pudding pop and a drink and just to get out of the house. And I guess when you're 80 years old, that's what you do in life. I don't know the answer to that, but he went to the dump every day to haul garbage or whatever. My point of it is, I do think that we need to run it like a business. I do think we need to invest scales. I think we need to learn that it's a collection site. It's more convenient for me to put everything by the side of the road like they do in the city of Palaca, and all that stuff gets picked up. And we go, well, we're not gonna do C&D at our unincorporated areas, but you drive around Palaca and C&D gets picked up and goes to the same landfill that we're not doing today.
Mr. Chairman,
So-
if you'd allow me a little
I
time,
will.
I'll get with Jay and I'll try to come up with some kind of possible remedies or possible solutions or possible whatever. I'll get with him and talk to him about it and come back with some kind of a recommendation or a little better argument why not, or that we should because it'll cost this or whatever. I mean, just,
Can you look at portable scales too? 'Cause that's gotta be an
I
option.
think he's already been looking, this is not
Okay.
new to me.
Right.
Jay and I have been talking about this for some time now. It's just that to me, it didn't make monetary sense, but I'm not, when I'm helping at the landfill, sorry guys, I'm not in the damn government mode. I'm in the private business mode, and Mr. Troxell's gonna find out when I help him in East Palaca, I'm not gonna be in the government mode giving away water. I'm gonna figure out at some point how to make it sustainable and move forward. That's not the same mode,
Right, I get
you
it.
know, the businessman versus the government mode, so.
Well, that was my soapbox.
Let me, if you
We
give me
will.
some time, I'll get with Mr. Tilton and I'll try to come up with some recommendations, solutions, or possible different things we can do.
Mr. Adams, you had a comment?
So I guess, do we want to set a time frame, like next month?
Man,
You
give
start
them
doing that, I'll resign from being your landfill manager. You can take it over.
Knew that wasn't going
time. Well,
No, I just
Somebody-
didn't know if how we wanted to move that
bring
forward.
it back as soon as you humanly
Yeah,
possible.
I'll meet with him and I'll make it a priority in my life, but I don't work good under those kind of pressures.
Okay, Mr. Pickens, you have any commissioner comments?
Just to say, I got a call from Travis Roberts with an update. Looks like everything's in order, I guess, to start moving forward, getting some bids on the Fort Gates Ferry. It's been a long time coming. Thank Mr. Troxel, Jeff, and Travis for all their hard work. The ferry, the barge itself is back at the landing, and you can't miss it when you go by because it's bright green. So I don't think anybody will hit it if we ever get this thing running. And I guess they are working on the push barge also. I think the motor's rebuilt and they're working on, so that'll be nice to try to move this thing forward and finally get this project done. So, that's all I have.
May I ask a question?
Yeah.
Commissioner Rawls, you mentioned this morning about a lumber package for that. Is that what Mr. Roberts is looking at right now?
I reached out to Pride about a month and a half, 2 months ago. I found out that they sold to the public.
Right.
So I was interested for myself, and I said, hey, while you're giving me pricing, I did a takeoff on the ferry landing, and we sent it up there to them. And I had missed two posts, and Mike pointed it out, so I went back the other day and asked them to revise their quote, and they resent it back, and it was like $7,400, including all the pilings, all the
Okay,
deck boards,
so
everything.
you brought that up. Do you want us to purchase that?
Yes. That was what we said at the beginning, was it makes sense for us to ODP that, because,
Is that going to be an agenda item soon then?
well, I don't know.
Okay, Julianne, I need a little clarification where we go from here.
The total sum that Mr. Troxel's turned into me is roughly less than $8,000. Purchases from Pride are statutorily exempt from procurement, so it is not going to be needed to come to the board via an agenda item.
Okay, so it's just a matter of pulling the plug and buying the product and having it on site. Who's going to install that, Mr. Rawls? Okay,
That would be a
There-
bid solicitation.
Mike is in the process of writing a scope of work and a solicitation.
okay.
Yeah, I just finished a draft statement of work, sent it out for any comments, so, I haven't any comments back yet. I think it's pretty simple. I mean, it's a simple thing. So once, the next week, we'll put it out for bid, as far as I'm concerned.
And
Because I
we-
know we got about 50 grand from what I understand.
Okay, so we put it out to bid, but we're going to buy the product.
Correct.
And have a contractor install our product that we're buying to meet our scope of work.
Absolutely.
Good, good.
And the 50 included the $5,000 engineering too that we already spent.
Good. Okay, that answers my question.
We were actually committed on spending $60,000 to get the money from DOT, but it,
I actually
Should
thought
be
it
able
was 44 and then we added 5 to it and made it not exceed 50 is what I
no,
thought.
when we were looking at the DOT, our portion, we had to match the 400,000. To get the 400,000 from DOT, we had to put up 60,000 ourselves, and that was where we said, we're gonna spend 60,000 one way or another, so.
We need to go back and look at the minutes, because I think actually Travis come up with numbers a lot less than that.
Yeah.
And then we was admitted to,
35,000.
a certain
Yeah.
amount, yeah, like he came up with like 35,
35.
right? And so then we put 5 on top of that for engineering, and there was something else, escalation or something, and so I thought we got up a size around 50, including all that, including this wood and including the different, the engineering that was 5, that she ended up wanting 13 for, and we refused because we hired her for 5. So, I mean,
I know, they sent us a bill.
Now, there is still gonna be some costs associated with the metal landings themselves. Not much, I don't believe, but I need to call Placo Welding and see what they would cost to go pick it up and fix some stuff on the
something
metal
else, too,
landings.
and that's
Or
that lumber package, there's
Holbert,
actually
there's
lumber
2
for
welding
the
shops
other
in
side.
town, there's Holbert out north of
Add
town.
boards, and, we included like 6 or 8 extra boards, right, for the other side?
For the other
Absolutely.
side. Okay, good.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Pickens, for allowing me that. Any further? Okay, Mr. Rawls, you have anything?
I'm good.
I don't have anything either. County Attorney, Mr. Commando?
Nothing additional, thank you, sir.
Thank you, County Administrator. Mr. Sutton?
Yes, sir. Surplus equipment, we have another auction fixing to come around. So just want to let you know that we'll probably include equipment from the landfill, fire rescue, as well as public works. So what we will do is we will have a window of opportunity for folks to come and inspect it. So we'll get that scheduled, just want to let you know that's coming. And then the.
Can I share a funny with you while you're talking?
Sure you can.
On the last surplus equipment, a couple fire trucks didn't sell, so they went back out. And a friend of mine who lives down by Deep Creek on Cousintown Road bought one. And he took his family for a ride in the fire truck up and down Cousintown Road. It was pretty fun, he said it, late one Friday night.
What do you do in the fire truck?
It's just, he bought it. He wanted it.
But does he have a Dalmatian?
I don't know about that. I didn't give it.
He should. And the next thing is,
Hang on, Mr. Turner has a comment.
okay.
Okay, along those lines, are we using the same procurement, that we did last time? Or are we actually gonna do some more advertising and some more things and use a real auction company instead of just one to dump the stuff on the street, which is, I get it the first time around that we were trying to do that. But weren't we gonna try to take it a step further on the second auction, the second equipment auction, and actually hire somebody that sends out emails and that does the videos and that does something, because they're not more money. From what I'm understanding, they're not more money.
So we are using, the first time and the second time, we are using a legitimate auctioneer company. It is Gideon. It is an entity that does most of the governmental entities in the state of Florida, frankly. They are, what the board asked is for a opportunity for the public to touch, feel, inspect, turn it on, and we are accommodating that in this next round. There'll be a host of pictures and that type of thing. And that,
That's good enough.
Thank you.
What you just said.
Yes, sir.
Good enough.
If I could say one thing,
Touchy-feely with the equipment.
Tim Hotelling had requested that maybe we, in order to get more money, also put up videos of the equipment. Is that a consideration? Because
Well, even some of them, I mean,
Yeah.
the higher end,
Yeah,
the
that's
higher
just-
end
yeah.
pieces, you don't need to like do a video of a wheelbarrow.
Right.
But, you know, the higher end pieces that
His
may
point was
actually
if-
run, you know,
if you're gonna sell a
Might
fire
be a
truck.
really good wheelbarrow.
your neighbor might have bought 2 fire trucks, so you'd go out there and see a video that they actually cranked up.
Well, yeah,
You know
and-
what I mean?
No,
if you don't know if it runs.
Paid a lot
you-
more too.
You know, a lot of people throw $500 or $600 at something, not know if it runs, but
For the cars that run.
they did videos of the ones that run. When I looked at, there was no videos.
Chairman
it was
Harvey, I'd
just
like to
pictures.
chime in on this.
Oh, I've seen.
Okay, Commissioner Adamsack has a
So-
comment.
so as
Mr.
a-
Suggs?
As a person whose wife owned an auctioneer business for 10 years, and I personally managed it, I will tell you that there is an advantage to video, even on a wheelbarrow, believe it or not, or multiple pictures. Because the idea behind it, there's psychology to auctioning. So the psychology of auctioning is the more pictures you have, the more time someone spends clicking to look at it, the more likely they are to bid, the more likely they are to bid more. There are things that a good auctioneer does in order to get more bids and to get more activity, and that is one of them. So there should be, anything that's worth more than $50, there should be at least 6 pictures of out there, even if it's just a slightly different angle, because it creates a situation where someone clicks next, and increases, there's psychology to it. So we need to make sure whoever the auctioneer is, I unfortunately am not licensed in Florida, but whoever it ends up being, that they understand that part of it. And that auction we had before did not meet those criteria.
Can you do the auction language?
So can I.
I don't know.
I think I actually,
I really can't.
I'm gonna help call the one at Jeff's church here in a couple weeks, so.
Can you?
Yes, sir.
I guess Sam asked me to without
Good.
asking me.
All right, Mr. Suggs, you still have the floor. You still have the floor, sir.
Yes, sir, I appreciate it.
I thought he was done.
No, no.
The next thing is, a couple weeks ago, there was some robust conversation Executive Director Grimes brought to the board about going out and looking and talking to a firm about helping us look at a potential fire MSTU. So really couldn't get a clear understanding of what the conversation was. So Executive Director Grimes and myself needs to know what the consensus of the board is for us to go ahead and engage with someone to look at doing a study for us, analysis for us for a potential MSTU for fire.
Okay. How I understood it is, where we left it was basically if it would help, the study would help reduce the cost of the taxpayers ad valorem wise, then that would work out. That's how I understood that to be. Is that how everybody else felt?
I don't know, Mr. Chairman. I think that where it left was Commissioner Adams, Zach, and myself said the only way that we would be for any kind of fire service if we offset the tax base to that amount or more.
I think we all felt that way.
Okay, and so,
We all felt that.
I don't know if this study that Director Grimes was talking about would cover that subject. That was what my understanding was at that meeting, but I could have maybe not been paying close enough attention or something, but that's what my understanding was, is the study didn't cover that subject. What level of tax reduction would we get if we came up with a fire service fee? And, I don't know, or I guess a countywide MSBTU or BU, whichever one. So, you know, personally, I think it needs more discussion, is what I think. I think that it needs I mean, that was brought to the commission meeting, I think, wasn't it, or workshop, whichever, but it was kind of brought as a one item, here it is, you know, I need you to support me by giving you this, and then it turns out to be, I felt like I was dive-bombed just a little bit, and so I'd like there to be more of a discussion at a workshop about, that's gonna take more than 5 minutes, with a presentation of what this study's gonna cover and what the ultimate goal is for that study to get us to, instead of just, we're gonna have a study on whether or not to do an MSTU,
BU.
BU.
You said TU, so is it BU or TU?
The BU.
B as in Bravo.
Okay,
I guess it's a
that's what I thought.
multi-service benefit units versus a taxing unit. I
Right.
guess one of them,
One of them's ad valorem assessed, one of them's not. The BU, can I speak real quick?
Well, wait a minute.
I got my
Wait a
way.
minute, Mr. Adams.
Mine was on first.
So I agree with most of what Mr. Turner said. The only way I could see it, if we have net new services, then obviously that number would possibly be a little bit more, but that's the only thing I'll go off a little bit on from what he said, but I agree with that. If we do an MSBU, we need to be able to offset that in ad valorem and the 1.1% tax thing that we have today. Get rid of that. MSBU covers that, what we currently do, but then any net new, obviously the MSBU would also have to encompass, just like ad valorem or the 1.1 would have to.
Thank you, Mr. Ross.
I'm not opposed to hiring a consultant, but I think we have enough smart people in the room, and we can bring a few more in. We can get the numbers from the property appraiser and the tax collector. We can crunch the numbers ourselves, and we can tell what a $10 MSBU is. And if you know what $10 does, then you can multiply it exponentially until you get to the point where you're fully, or whatever level of funding we're looking to be. So I don't know that we need a consultant right now. We can also reach out to our other counties around us that have these MSBU's in place and take a look and see what they are. But we know how many houses we have, how many vacant lots we have, and just apply those numbers. It's very simple math, and then we can have a quick conversation. We know that if we can get the property to tell us how much 1 mil or 1/10 of 1 mil is worth in dollars. So if we raise $1 million, then we can take $1 million off. We can watch that millage rate go down.
Have that.
So
we still have, we haven't, I'm sorry, I think
Hang on,
Commissioner
yeah.
Adams Act
But,
was next.
I think that at that point, we would know kind of what we're looking at, and then structuring the MSBU, that's where you gotta have somebody come in and help get that set up. But then it's our job to sell it to the public.
Mr. Adams.
I think the one thing we may, and I don't know that we need a consultant to do this part either, but obviously a lot may have a different rate than a house or than a commercial business. You know, we gotta decide that when this comes about, if churches are gonna fall into it, which I don't think they should, but things like that. So all that kind of stuff would have to come into play too. So I don't know if the consultant maybe helps with that part of it by basically doing the research for us on other communities, what they've done. I think that's where that comes into play, is to see, have them go do the legwork and say, A, B, and C, D county have already done this, so let's replicate
Hang on,
it.
Jeff, hang on. Commissioner, are you done?
Yeah, that's it.
Thank you. Commissioner Turner?
Okay, well, I guess we're missing my point that I was trying to make. I don't know if I'm for or against this at this point, because basically I was asked to come up with to hire a consultant to go figure out a way to make this happen. Now, I may have misunderstood, but that's what I understood from JR. I want you to support me by giving me a consultant to go and make this happen. Well, nobody's convinced me yet that I'm going to be for making that happen, because I need to And the administrator and I in the past have had some pretty heated discussions about this, in fairness. And so, I would like to talk about it in workshop to see, number one, if we're gonna move forward, and if we are, what those goals are gonna be. Because I'm gonna fight a tax increase.
Me too.
I want a tax decrease. But if we can do an MSTU or an MBU, excuse me, and make it work overall, I'm definitely willing to talk in that direction if it's better for the citizens of Putnam County. Better for the citizens of Putnam County. So, but I'm not for a tax increase just because we need another ambulance or a fire truck or whatever. I'm for trying to figure out how to get that while not increasing taxes or not increasing fees and making services better. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, let's wrap this up. Commissioner Ross?
I can say with absolute no uncertainty that this is a decrease for anyone who is now paying on the ad valorem side. The folks that are not paying anything toward the ad valorem assessment will see an increase in their taxes because all of a sudden they'll be paying something where they're paying nothing. But I think from a standpoint of, and I hate to use the word fairness, police, fire, rescue, as far as I'm concerned, is what we should be supplying the taxpayers in this community in trash collection. Everybody should pay equally and undiminished. It doesn't matter what your house value is worth. When you get in a position of need and you dial 911, it shouldn't matter what the value of your property is. So, I only say this because if your back's against the wall and you're in a non-negotiable position, you're saying if there's any tax increase, the answer is no. There's going to be a tax increase, but for the majority of the taxpayers, it's going to be a tax decrease. And what it'll also do is sink our millage rate down and will look a lot more attractive to folks that might be looking to move their residents here.
I'm willing to listen to all that, but I want to hear it. I want to hear it out of JR's mouth, and I want to hear it out of
If somebody will
Terry's
get me the
mouth.
numbers, I'll do a presentation for us.
Hang on, Mr. Pickens.
Yeah, we have talked about this ever since I got on the board,
Yeah.
I think. And so I think, moving this thing to another workshop, I know people say, why you keep moving to workshop? But I think this does need more discussion. And if it's better for the overall citizens of the county, then I could probably get on and support it. I don't want to raise another fee or raise taxes. We've had to do that before when I first got here. So I think I'm getting more information to JR and bringing it to us of how this thing is going to work. And if somebody can crunch some of the numbers, you say it's easy.
And the goal.
And the goal, exactly, is what is the end purpose of this?
You got to get from JR.
Right, and then if it is, we will have to sell this to the public, and we really will.
Well,
One more thing, I promise I'll shut up. So
no, hang
Of
on.
why
Mr. Adamczyk has
it will benefit
the
them.
benefit we
Mr.
discussed this
Adamczyk
morning.
has his light on. I have to.
Discuss the
Hang
benefit
on,
of insurance.
please. Mr. Adamczyk.
I think we're really close to in
Yeah,
agreement with each
we're
other
all
on
singing
this.
the
I
same-
think all I'll say is this is the closest thing to a fair tax that I think a local government could do.
It's a user-based
Right.
situation.
I'm not against it.
Right.
I'm not
And
saying
that's why I
that.
said I think
I'm
we're all
saying I'm
we're all a lot
against it,
closer.
and
We
I
just
wanna
need more
know
information.
what we're doing. I don't know.
I don't know
Okay.
who, there's
Okay.
a
I'm gonna bring
business
this in
in
for
Commissioner
Lanny real
Turner's
quick. Mr.
district.
Suggs, at the next workshop, let's get JR to make a presentation to us at that point. We already have 2 counties that were emailed to me, Baker County, I think it was, and another county that he had, the methodology. I looked at some of that. I have to tend to agree with Commissioner Rawls on this one too, and I'll go back to another story later on, but if you just take that model and put it over top of Putnam County, what does it look like? And then, when we really get serious about it, then we can hone in and get consultants in here or whatever. We might not need it. We might could just adopt the methodology. We are pretty smart in this room. We can figure this out. There's 90,000 parcels in the county. Some are vacant lots, and we got to carve out some. And if we carve out churches, I'm not saying we should or shouldn't. I'm just saying there's certain areas we might want to do. I think we can find that. So that was part of your comments. So at the next workshop, let's schedule JR to take care of that for us. With the goal in mind that we want to reduce our ad valorem burden on our citizens as much as possible. Now, Jeff's right. Some people are going to pay more, but the bulk of the people are going to pay a lot less.
And you may want to tag team, that doesn't have to just be JR. Y'all may put a presentation together. I mean, I know you're passionate about this too, Mr. Suggs, and so maybe it's that we put a group of people together to talk about it, you know, from different, kind of like the school board did today with different avenues or different expertises or whatever, as long as we get to what the real goal is. What are you trying to accomplish other than just get more money?
Well, would you please bear with me for a moment? Back years ago, I ran for this position. Gosh, I think it was in 2000, early against Sinclair Eaton. And I remember talking, you'll probably heard me, and if you did, I'm sorry. But I was at an Elks Club, and this lady says, I can't afford to pay more taxes. But she had 3 drinks in front of her and 2 packs of cigarettes. And she couldn't afford to pay anything for fire service. And I said exactly what you said. After I didn't embarrass her to begin with. I said, ma'am, you got $15 up here. You come how many times a week and how many times a year, and did the math. And I said, but when you dial 911.
No wonder you didn't win.
I know. But I said, when you dial 911, they show up. They don't ask you if you pay taxes. They show up. And me, myself, and I. But it was the truth, because what Mr. Adamczak just said too, somebody else is paying that bill if you're not paying that bill. And just like you said, when you dial, they don't look you up and go, oh, you live in a $400,000 house. We'll be there in 2 minutes. Oh, you live in a $100,000. We'll be there in 5. They don't do that. They drop what they're doing. You answered the page your whole life just about. I don't know how you all live by the page. I couldn't live by the page. And you dropped everything you're doing, family, food, everything, to get in a truck and go help somebody out and put your life in danger. And I think at the end of the day, we're going to make a better fire service in Putnam County if we can have this conversation, keep this going, because our Section 125 of Florida statute demands us to have a fire service. So there's my soapbox. Mr. Suggs, you still have the floor, but you're going to put that on the next workshop, right?
Yes, sir, I'll put it on the workshop, and let me just make it very clear that every one of you sitting in the dais is absolutely correct. What the intended goal is to be able to fund our fire services to a level that we can eventually get to where we need to be with staffing levels and hopefully countywide service that lowers our ISO ratings. We also want it to benefit the millage rate. It won't be a dollar for dollar also, but we want to offset that millage rate as best we can. But that's the goal. So that's what we'll bring back. We'll bring back a presentation and try to get there for the next workshop. Absolutely.
When you say it won't be dollar for dollar, what do you mean by that?
It means that for every dollar that we bring in, we won't be able to offset the millage rate by an entire dollar, because not everything can go towards fire services and EMS and things of that nature. There is a offset, but what it will do is give you the opportunity to lower your millage rate to an extent that we're not sure of yet, because we haven't done the analysis yet. But it will be an offset of some sort, absolutely.
Can I say something about the EMS and fire?
I'm sorry?
Regarding the EMS and fire, one thing that we have to understand is the MSBU the money can only go towards fire. So
Right.
I could see where there'd be a dollar for dollar there, but on the EMS side,
Correct.
that's just going to continue to come out of general fund until we can find something else for that later.
Okay, Mr. Suggs, you still have the floor.
Yes, sir. And my last comment is I do want to, I know we haven't done this in a while, and I understand the process, but I'm going to toss Commissioner Rawls one of these today. And, I mean, seriously, what great conversation today, and, and we appreciate it, and so we definitely want to recognize that. So, thank you. And I was going to give one to Turner, but I can't now, so I'm going to give it to Mike Troxel, who took advantage of a situation and roped Commissioner Turner into being his employee on trying to find a way to make our water and sewer more sustainable. So congratulations, Mr. Troxel. Thank you. And Mr. Chairman, that concludes my comments.
Now, I think you have to get those awards back because they have to be reusable, right, down the road. So. Okay. Let's see. Everybody's had a chance to comment. I've had a chance to comment.
I have one other issue.
You've missed your chance to comment. Go ahead, Mr. Turner. Go ahead, Mr. Turner. The chair will make an exception.
Mr. Adamczak gave me this earlier, and it was about what we talked about this morning about the contractor.
Correct.
And it is in here that
Okay.
they got it put in there about that we can use a separate contractor. What I'd like, if your roofer's not available, as long as you don't take the same, another contractor that's on the board duplicate. Okay, what I need somebody to tell me is if we have a building contractor or a general contractor on there, does that mean we cannot also have a residential contractor, cause that's two of them? Or does that mean a contract, well, that's not, it's that vague though, Jeff. I mean, to me, as long, if you're a general and you could find a residential, that ain't the same guy, I'm telling you now, so.
I think if we can make
Totally
an
different.
argument for it, then it
Okay.
works.
Well, if that's the case, then we need to start looking for somebody.
Yeah, when I asked her, when I went over and talked to, I can't remember her name. It could be a pool contractor, any contractor that we recognize as a level one contractor by that county ordinance. So
It's
she
not
said
on there already.
Right.
I understand, but still doesn't answer my question. If you have a general contractor on there now or a building contractor, can you put a residential contractor on there as your second guy, which is not the same, law? I'd say yes too.
Yeah.
But we just need to find out, and then we can go on and find somebody and fill up that board that's been,
It would be beneficial to have a residential, because if you think about it, if somebody comes in and says they want to get their registered license and registered in Putnam County only, the commercial, the general contracting world and the residential world are two completely different animals. So you would have somebody, a voice of reason that's in the residential world and a voice of reason that's in the commercial world.
Well, Mr. Commando's face kind of scrinched up, so do you want to answer that a little bit?
No, I mean, my thought and comment was that as the board, you're the ultimate deciding factor on who gets
There you
appointed
go.
anyway. So you will judge the qualifications on an individual by individual basis. I'm confident that you'll pick the most qualified person in those circumstances.
I like this guy. I really do.
That sounded very
He's a politician.
politician-like,
No,
yeah.
we didn't get the two-page dissertation. I like this. Okay, so are you happy with the results, Mr.
Good,
Turner?
good.
So you're ready to go forward? Anybody else? Any public comment on miscellaneous items? Hearing none, this stands adjourned till we're adjourned and we're going to meet back at 5:05.